Thank you for viewing the Title II Part A Coordinators Training for 2023. We will be using these goals for learning to structure the information. We first want to look at the intent of and allowable expenditures specific to Title II Part A, and then we want to talk about some things to keep in mind while developing your district plan. And finally, we will look over the GMAP application. The very simple way to summarize Title II Part A intent is to say that it is meant to support and strengthen student achievement through educator improvement. You will notice that the word supplemental is highlighted, and you will hear that word several times during this presentation. Title II Part A funds are supplemental, so always keep in mind that these funds are intended to be used in addition to what your district already is doing to improve educator effectiveness. Looking more specifically at the meaning of supplement in Section 2123B of ESSA, it's defined as funds that are received under the subpart shall be used to supplement and not supplant non-federal funds that would otherwise be used for activities authorized under this subpart. A very simple interpretation of that is that you should use these funds to add to what you already do instead of replacing them. Because Title II Part A funds are meant to be used above and beyond what the district currently does to support effective instruction, a good way to evaluate the activities in terms of supplementing versus supplanting is to ask a few questions to help guide your district plan. The first question to ask is if the activity or initiative is reasonable. Meaning, is the cost practical and realistic, and is it based on prudent and sound purchasing practices? The second question to ask is if the expenditure is allocable, meaning are these funds going to be distributed for a particular purpose that benefits your program, and are the funds distributed proportionally for an allowable activity? Does the cost align with the intent of the Title II Part A program? A third question to consider is if the expenditure is necessary, meaning is the activity or expenditure essential for implementing a needs-based activity for the district? Also, always have a plan in place for how each expenditure will be documented. All expenditures and activities that are funded through any federal program should have clear data and documented evidence to support both the need and effectiveness of the expenditure. A final thought on supplement versus supplant is a simple question you can ask yourself. If you answer yes, then the funds may be being used more to supplant rather than supplement. When looking at allowable expenditures under Title II Part A, the majority of the expenditures typically fall into one of these 5 categories: professional learning, recruitment, retention, career pathways, and equitable distribution of effective educators. We're going to look at each one briefly and provide some basic guidelines regarding allowability. Professional learning experiences funded with Title II Part A funds should meet all 6 criteria. Notice these criteria start with being needs-based. This is a cornerstone of all federal programs and really what drives the whole process, working to meet identified needs in the district. Also notice that the professional learning needs need to be evidence-based, which is another big part of federal funding requirements. All Title II Part A expenditures start with a need, but those needs should be met with evidence-based actions or activities. Many of you get survey requests each year from the United States Department of Education asking how your district utilizes funds. The latest report showed that districts who provided long-term professional learning initiatives saw greater results with teacher effectiveness and retention as opposed to using funds for short-term or isolated events. We are currently working with our data team to dig deeper into how Kentucky districts are utilizing funds in terms of desired outcomes and are anxious to see the results. This exploration will be conducted throughout the year through targeted surveys, so be watching for those. We're hoping that this project will be able to provide some specific information on the relationship between how funds are utilized and effective instruction. Teacher recruitment and retention are very closely related, but also can stand alone based on the needs of your district. If your needs assessment indicates a need for teacher recruitment or retention, first think about what the district already does and then consider how your district can add to those efforts using these federal funds. Title II Part A funds may be used to support additional recruitment efforts and strategies, such as funding new teacher induction programs, support programs, funds to help with praxis study test materials, or supporting paraeducators in gaining their certification. Likewise, think about retention in the same way. If this is a need in your district, think about how funds can be used to supplement what the district already does to keep effective teachers. This may be providing stipends for mentoring new teachers, paying fees associated with national board certification, or other opportunities for growth. We had the opportunity this year to visit some districts that utilize Title II Part A funds for very intentional new teacher support, both for teachers new to the district and new to the profession. Those districts did experience the usual turnover related to retirements, but indicated that this support did positively impact overall both recruitment and retention. They specifically mentioned that customizing the support for staff needs was extremely beneficial, particularly to the large number of alternatively certified staff that are entering the profession. These staff members have different needs than many traditionally certified staff, so considering the needs of both populations to offer flexible degrees of support was very effective. This is the ESSA definition of class size reduction for Title II Part A. This says that funds may be used to reduce class size to a level that is evidence-based to the extent that the state, in consultation with local education agencies in the state, determines that such evidence is reasonably available to improve student achievement through the recruiting and hiring of additional effective teachers. With that being said, Title II Part A funding may be used to reduce class sizes by creating additional classes in a particular grade or subject area. Please remember that these funds are supplemental and should be used based on the needs and evidence, so funds cannot be used just to fill a position because of cuts in teacher allocations. Also, remember to check the regulatory class size capacity for the grade level you are considering supplementing. Evidence should document that the change in student-teacher ratio will impact student achievement, resulting in a meaningful reduction for all students in the class on a regular basis. Class size reduction staff also needs to be deemed effective by the district and be certified in the area and grade level to which they are assigned. This would not be an appropriate position for new or non-certified staff. Creating optional career pathways for teachers is another allowable use of Title II Part A funds. These pathways are for teachers who want to advance in their careers but who do not want to leave the classroom. This might include stipends or salaries for instructional coaches, teacher leaders who collaborate with administrators or lead decision-making groups, or teachers who provide professional learning for other staff in their area of expertise. Funding activities or initiatives to support the equitable distribution of effective educators is an allowable and important use of Title II Part A funds in that it connects effective teachers and principals with students with the greatest needs. Activities here may include funding strong induction and or mentoring programs that support educator knowledge on the needs of high poverty students, or financial incentives that put the most effective teachers into the schools with the neediest students. Anything that supports strategic teacher placement so that students have the best opportunity to succeed. These are just a few examples of allowable expenditures that we typically see in district applications. Likewise, we see expenditures that are not allowable. We wanted to specifically mention these expenditure requests and why they are unallowable. These activities are all very important in the education of a child, but many of these are normal district functions, meaning curriculum, assessment, and data work will occur with or without federal funds. However, providing guidance for staff on how to use curriculum, assessments, and data to improve instruction is allowable under Title II Part A, as long as it is reasonable and meets an identified need. This would typically be provided for new teachers or teachers who are new to the district. Other unallowable expenditures worth mentioning relate to materials. Title II Part A funds cannot be used for student materials or for class or staff sets of materials, but they can be used for materials that are essential to or connected with professional learning that staff members may participate in. If a teacher joins an instructional cadre, for example, and needs a book or manipulative as part of that cadre, that is an allowable expense as long as the participation is a documented need. But let's say that the teacher gains a lot of valuable instructional knowledge through the cadre and would like for students to all have the same materials. That would not be an allowable expenditure for Title II Part A because those are for students. We now want to take a look at some things to think about when preparing and working on your Title II Part A plan. These are all processes to keep in mind throughout the year. The first thing to consider is how you plan your Title II Part A program. Planning is such an important part of the program. We mentioned the importance of questioning expenditure, reasonability, and necessity earlier. Also, developing and using a needs assessment will help clarify those questions. There is a very basic needs assessment and planning tool in the Title II Part A handbook, which can be found also on the Title II Part A webpage. But anything your district uses to determine the needs of students and staff will work in terms of these requirements. Your district may look at multiple pieces of data. Whatever data is going to help determine and then prioritize the needs of the district. The next step is to use the needs assessment findings to help develop a plan. How can you use Title II Part A funds to supplement what's already being done to improve the district's areas of need? And then the final consideration is who will make these decisions. Federal law does require that all shareholders be involved in the decision-making process related to spending Title II Part A funds. It is important to bring all of these groups to the table. The district can prepare and provide the data to shareholders. In particular, these are our needs. These are our funding sources that are available to help brainstorm priorities. What strategies will be used? What have we been doing? What have we done before? What worked and what didn't? And how can we improve? This is based on a very standard lesson plan to keep those ideas flowing in terms of where we are now, where do we want to go, and how will you get there? A simple way to organize and document your district's Title II Part A plan is to develop possibly a template that aligns with district and school improvement plans. That includes listing the identified needs based on the district needs assessment, the strategy or strategies that will be used to address the need, the funding source or sources that will be used to pay for the strategy, and finally, the procedures that will be utilized to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the strategies. When developing your District Title II Part A plan, also keep in mind the RAND requirements that were previously mentioned. Are the strategies reasonable and necessary? Is the cost allocable? And how will everything be documented? And finally, does the plan intentionally address the identified needs of the district? ESSA does require that all shareholders be involved in the planning, implementation, and evaluation of federal programs. Consultation with shareholders can occur in many different ways, including surveys, emails, face-to-face or virtual meetings, and can be documented through sign-in sheets, attendance records, and with hard copies of emails and or text. Federal law also requires that equitable services be provided to all participating non-public schools within district boundaries. Non-public schools do not receive Title II Part A funding, but they can receive services and materials if they choose to participate. The public school maintains fiscal control, so no reimbursements go to the private schools, only services. So if non-public school staff participate in professional learning experiences or attend conferences, the fees must be paid by the public school district. If materials are purchased, they remain the property of the public district and should be labeled appropriately. All services to non-public schools should be supplemental and neutral. Please be sure that consultation with non-public schools is ongoing through the school year and that all consultation is documented. Every expenditure using Title II-A or other federal funds should be both needs and evidence-based, and the best way to show that is through thorough documentation. This is not only a requirement, but also a great way to showcase your efforts and your program. Consider using an online storage platform such as Dropbox or SharePoint, or even a binder or box for hard copies. Be intentional about dating and labeling documents and about keeping data that provides evidence of effectiveness. Policies, processes, and procedures also are a good way to organize and keep documentation. And why are these so important? An obvious reason is to meet the requirements of Every Student Succeeds and uniform grant guidance. But in addition to meeting these requirements, maintaining documents is a best practice that can benefit the district in a number of ways. Documenting how you do things provides a system of internal controls and establishes a level of transparency around your program. Detailed processes and procedures are invaluable to staff who are new to the program. I'm sure we can all think to a time when we undertook a new job or responsibility with little to no instructions being made available. Imagine how helpful it would have been to have documented processes and procedures that could have been referenced at that time. This also helps avoid programmatic silos. In the event that a district coordinator is unable to complete a task, these documents will allow someone else to step in during that absence. And finally, these documents can provide great evidence of a well-run program. If you currently do not have written procedures in place, a good place to start is with writing down what you're already doing and then going from there, like a workflow. Some things to keep in mind are the processes and procedures documented that are currently used in your district? Are they current and up to date? Do other staff members know where to locate these documents? And is there a consistent and effective implementation and evaluation plan in place? Be sure to include fiscal management of your program within your processes and procedures, particularly regarding time and effort. The district should maintain documentation for any employees paid partially or solely with Title II Part A funds to support the allocability, veracity, and accuracy of the work performed. Records should include the time, amount, and percentage worked directly with Title II Part A programs, should align with the approved GMAP budget, and also be signed and dated by both the employee and his or her immediate supervisor. There are two types of collaboration to keep in mind when planning the use of Title II Part A funds. First is collaboration among shareholders. It is very important to involve everyone in the education of a child in the decision-making process. Remember to include parents and community partners when planning district initiatives. Your district may be near your university, or your public library may have a strong program for children. These are valuable collaborators who can provide new insights or suggestions. Second is the collaboration at the district level, occurring between the Title II Part A coordinator and the district finance officer. It's very important to work together and make sure that the expenditure request and budgets align, as well as the budget and munis codes. One of the main things we see when looking at applications are often differences in set-asides and budget. This is typically just miscommunication between the finance office and the district coordinator. Collaboration between the financial officer and the district Title II coordinator can be a big benefit to the application process, and also the Title II Part A effectiveness within the district. Federal law does require that state agencies monitor district uses of federal funds, and although notification of being monitored is not always considered to be a positive thing, we truly do consider monitoring to be an opportunity to meet with you in person and celebrate the work that is being done in your district. We encourage you to use the self-assessment tool to regularly evaluate your Title II Part A program. This can be found in the Title II Part A handbook and also on the website. The self-assessment tool could also be a great tool to use when developing written procedures for your program. Within the document, there is not only a list of areas of compliance, but also included within each regulation is a list of possible pieces of evidence that could be used to document how funds are being used in each area. Consolidated monitoring typically occurs between January and April of each year. And for Title II Part A, we look at the four main areas shown here: teacher certification, program development, implementation, and evaluation, financial management, and equitable services. More specifically, within teacher certification, we look to ensure that all teachers are appropriately certified, that parents are aware of how to request teacher qualification information, and that teachers are made aware of anyone that has been teaching 4 or more consecutive weeks that may not have appropriate certification. Programmatically, we look to see that Title II Part A funded activities are based on identified needs, that the program is being implemented consistent with the approved application, and that the program is evaluated regularly for effectiveness. Financially, we look to see that the expenditures align with MUNIS, and then we look to ensure that there is two-way communication between participating non-public schools and the district. This is just a loose suggested timeline for Title II Part A activities. It is fairly flexible and can be adjusted to meet the needs of your district. But typically in the winter, early spring, a district needs assessment is developed with input from all shareholders. Also during this time, participation letters are sent to non-public schools. During the spring, consultation with the participating non-public schools occur, and it's also a good time to schedule regular meetings throughout the entire school year. In late spring or summer is when the GMAP applications are completed and submitted in GMAP. Districts with approved consolidated applications may begin spending new fiscal funds on July 1 of that year. This is also a good time to schedule regular times within the district to evaluate Title II Part A spending and implementation. Final allocations are released in the fall. These are calculated and uploaded into GMAP, and at that time, districts will need to submit revised application based on the final allocation. This is also a good time to check in with shareholders, your non-public school administrators, and then schedule some regular times to review your Title II Part A expenditures with the district finance officer. Finally, we will look at the GMAP application. There are 4 parts in the Title II Part A GMAP application, and the first is support for effective instruction page. This is where you will provide information about how Title II Part A funds will be used to meet the identified needs of the district. We ask that you provide concise but clear narratives. This can also include bulleted statements that describe the current needs of the district, how Title II Part A funds will be used to address the identified needs, how the district supports the professional growth of teachers, and how data is used to update and improve the activities that are funded through Title II Part A. Also, on the Support for Effective Instruction page, please provide a concise narrative that describes how schools with the highest needs, which includes any TSI or CSI schools in the district, will be prioritized, along with verification that all shareholders have been consulted during program planning and that funds are being used to supplement and not supplant other funds. The personnel details page of the GMAP application is next, and is where you will provide information regarding staff certification and salaries. The first section, you will indicate whether all district staff is appropriately certified. This information can be found in your district lead report or by contacting the Educational Professional Standards Board. If your district has any staff without appropriate certification, please include a brief description of how these staff members will be supported and upload that description into the district document library. The remaining sections on this page are for information regarding any staff that are paid fully or partially from Title II Part A funds. If you do not have any staff being paid with these funds, please check that box that verifies this, and you will be directed to the next page. If you do have staff being paid from these funds, please complete the page accordingly. Any staff that serves the whole district should be reflected here and should include the head count and corresponding full-time equivalency, or FTE. This is typically used for instructional coach salaries who serve the entire district. This is also a good place to think about the RAND requirements mentioned earlier. Salaries should be reasonable, allocable, and necessary, particularly if they are used for program coordinators. The last part of the personnel page is for reporting Title II funded staff who work in one specific school. If you use instructional coaches or class size reduction staff that work in a specific school who are paid partially or fully from Title II Part A funds, you will provide that information here. There is a drop-down feature that will have all the schools within your district preloaded, so you have the ability to enter information for any school in the district. If utilizing funds for class size reduction teachers, be sure to include a concise description of the evidence being used to verify that the use of class size reduction staff is effective and that the student to teacher ratio has been significantly changed. Please note the checkbox below. If the district has used Title II Part A funds for a class size reduction in the previous year, then you are asked to upload documentation to the district document library that shows how this use of funds has been effective in supporting student achievement. Assurance documentation should also be uploaded into the district document library that verifies any class size reduction staff has been deemed effective by the district prior to being hired. The third section of the application is for equitable services. If your district does not have any participating non-public schools, you can check the box that indicates this and will be directed to the next page. If your district does have participating private schools, please enter the information on this page. GMAP will calculate the amount once you enter the enrollment information. The last page of the application is the budget page. You will complete this page for both the district and for participating non-public schools. After choosing the category of either public or non-public budget, you will select the appropriate object code for the expenditure. The drop-down list includes only allowable codes for Title II Part A. The next drop-down is where you will indicate your set-aside by using the appropriate tag. Tags indicate how the allocation is budgeted at the district or school level, and then the purpose of the expense. If you notice the example in this screenshot, this line item is for certified salary. If this were someone who serves the whole district, such as an instructional coach, it would be tagged as district-professional learning coach. If it was a salary for a coach that only worked in one school, it would be tagged as school instructional coach. The narrative box is where a description should be provided on how the budgeted funds will address current identified needs. Please be concise but explicit in the narrative to clearly explain what the expenditure is for and how it aligns to an identified need. This is an example of two narratives. Please look over these and think about which one clearly explains the expenditure. The narrative on the left provides information for multiple activities. Fees for conference attended, not limited to early literacy, social studies, science standards, implementation, mathematics, and so forth. There is a lot of information there, but it is not clear and it is not concise. The description on the right, however, does provide information for a particular conference and information regarding how many staff will be attending. Although it is brief in nature, it provides more clarification on how the district will be utilizing these registration fees in this example, rather than just holding them for something that comes along in the future. We encourage you to utilize the help pages in GMAP. We have tried to be explicit with these and also make sure these are directly connected to ESSA law. There is a help page for each section in GMAP for all programs, not just Title II Part A. In our budget help pages, we have included guidance on developing the budget, updating and completing it, and also guidance around district and school set-asides. There are other features in the KDE resources that may be helpful when completing your application. These are some considerations to think about when preparing and submitting your GMAP application. Has the application been completed based on the current needs of the district? Do expenditures align with the identified needs? Do expenditures align with the district and school improvement plans? Do the budget narratives clearly explain the expenditure? Are the expenditures budgeted in GMAP allowable under Title II Part A? Do the narratives align with allowable codes? And then has collaboration occurred with the district finance officer? It is worth noting that allowable doesn't always mean approvable. Allowable simply means that the most recent non-competitive federal funding matrix lists the object code as an allowable expense under the program. Approvable, however, does include the RAND principles that were mentioned earlier. It should be reasonable, not excessive in amount. It should be allocable and meet the intent of the program. It should be necessary and essential for carrying out the program. And then it should be documented that it does support an identified need and is included in the approved application. These are common application revision requests that we get. Sometimes they are not aligned, meaning that the information provided on the support for effective instruction page does not align with the expenditures on the budget page. Sometimes we need additional information. Class size reduction staff, there should be an assurance document and effectiveness evidence uploaded to the district document library. There should be an assurance that shareholder input has been received within the plan, and the Equitable Services consultation packet should be uploaded into GMAP as well. These are some recommendations for alignment of your GMAP application. We do recommend that GMAP and Munis are reviewed together at least quarterly to ensure that funds are both aligned and being expended in a timely manner. We recommend that this regular alignment be included in internal controls, processes, and procedures within the district. This has been a lot of information to absorb in a short amount of time. Just to summarize what has been said about Title II Part A planning, just thinking about working with your shareholders to identify your district needs, and then thinking about what activities will impact those needs. Are the activities reasonable, allocable, necessary, and how will they be documented? Your feedback is very important to us as we work to do our very best to support you and your district. We would appreciate it if you would take this brief survey regarding this information. Also, if you need ELA credit, please access this link and directions for ELA credit will be provided. We try our best to keep the Title II Part A webpage accurate and up to date. We always recommend that you utilize the information in the Title II Part A handbook. There are also other resources available on the website. Here is the contact information for the Title II Part A team. Please do not hesitate to call on us for any reason. We look forward to working with you during the upcoming school year. Thank you for watching.